Hello there. So, as you probably saw in the title of this video, I'm going to be, one day, a Blender god. I don't know how long that's going to take. I don't even know what you really define as a Blender god. I mean, there's the Blender guru, you know. I don't know, I decided to, as a filmmaker myself, I decided it'd be a fun thing to get into. I'm very new to it. I haven't done much of anything. But my plan for this series is to basically upload every single day that I work on Blender, which I'm planning to be like 3 times a week. And basically just provide you guys with my progress. So far I've had like 2 1-hour-ish sessions on Blender, and I'm going to update you guys on for this video and next video on what I've done so far. My goal is to keep going, keep creating until I become a god at Blender. So, yeah. So about 2 days ago, I finished up my first Blender kind of little project. I spent about an hour on it, and this is not what I did with an hour. Basically, I went through just the super basics, getting to know how to move around the grid, knowing what this is. That is a camera, by the way, this little thing. That's basically what you will see in the final render is through this camera, and whatever's in view of the camera is what will be in the final render, which is pretty cool. This thing over here is a little light to light the scene whenever you get into that arena later on. What's interesting about Blender, coming from a filmmaker's perspective, is it's basically like setting up your own shoot completely digitally, you know, without all the trouble of dealing with other people and locations. You basically get to digitally create your own scene and shoot it with your camera, which is kind of why I was drawn to it. But anyway, so basically what I did my first hour or so was I played around with the keyboard controls. I watched a few different tutorials on things. Basically, I just got to know this whole section. I did a Shift-A to get to this. It's like the different basic objects you can bring in to the grid. I messed around with like the cubes and circles and monkey head. For some reason, that's a basic shape you can use. And I just played around with the sizing and stuff, making them bigger. Let's see here. How to move around, how the X, Y, and Z axis work, or what a lot of people will call, that we do these tutorials, is Z. I think that's like a European thing to call ZZ. That took me like 20 minutes to figure out what they were talking about. But that's a keyboard shortcut for that, so you can move up directly up the Z axis, the Y, or the X axis. Very simple things. It's difficult, it is, but it's also extremely interesting and really addicting, which is why I want to get into it. So after bringing in some different shapes, like going to mesh here, bring in, I don't know, I think one of the other ones I did was like plane, yeah. I used that as like the surface that I put my objects on. Put the Z-axis here. Kind of place them around. You can rotate them different ways depending on the axis you choose. And after messing around with the objects a little bit, I moved over into the shading section, which was pretty interesting. basically you just get the color here, and you can, let me remember how to do this. Do new, there you go. And then you can mess with the subsurface structure of the shapes. So basically what I really like, the setting that I liked, is once I change the color, which I think is over here, yeah, base color. I have the, let's do the monkey. Do like a red. And what I really like the effect was like a metallic, so you can look and see how it kind of looks kind of shiny and stuff. You can take down the roughness, and now it looks like, you know, like a jewel or something really cool. So that was my favorite kind of effect that I had found. Really simple stuff, really simple stuff. And after messing with the colors and the background a little bit, I familiarized myself with this section over here for rendering, getting to know the difference between Eevee and Cycles. Cycles is basically like a more accurate representation of the render, but it's also a lot harder on your computer. So if you go over here to like this, it'll show you a realistic kind of view of what the final render would look like. You can hear my computer heating up because it's quite difficult to run Cycles. But it supposedly gives you a better representation of how lighting works in the scene, especially with the location of your light on your objects and the way they reflect the light. Typically, most people, including me, and even I have a pretty beefy computer, would stay on Eevee because it's not a great representation of the light, but it's also not going to kill your computer. And then I made a render, and that turned out looking like this. Very simple. I literally just used the basic shapes. Like, I didn't change these shapes at all except for the surface of them and the color. These are all shapes that you can go back into that mesh section and just pull them out, and all I did was kind of rearrange them and tilt them to make them look like just inanimate objects balancing on each other in like a little pile. And then I made them all really like metallic and reflective and stuff, and put the light on them to shine, and I gave it kind of a background there, and kept the plane white on the surface that they're on. So yeah, that's day one with about an hour and a half of Blender. My first creation. Next video, I'm going to be going over how to do a landscape in an environment. That's what I've started doing next, and I'm really excited about that. And the next video is going to be kind of the first iterations of a landscape and like structures and stuff like that. So day one of many. So stay tuned, and I'll catch you next time.